Go out to eat?
I don't.
You don't like to go out to eat?
I do.
I love to go out to eat, okay? And part of that is I like when somebody has taken the time to pay enormous attention to detail. I like when somebody has done that because the customer service or whatever it is, or the food or how they prepare the food or whatever. And I remember Cantina Laredo. Has anybody been there? So if you have an opportunity, you go to Branson. I don't own stock in it or anything, but if you want to see great customer service in a restaurant, go to Cantina Laredo on the landing. They have one in Little Rock too if you ever get there.
I've been there.
It is amazing. I love the food. I love the service. I love everything about that place. But when you've been to a restaurant, who's had 5-star customer service before? I have, yeah. Who's had 4-star before? What about 3-star? 2-star? Who's had 0-star? I've had 0-star before too, and let me tell you about it one time. I never go to a restaurant unless I've had somebody tell me, hey, you've got to go here, it's really good. Because I don't want to be the guy that goes, hey, you don't want to go here, it's not very good at all. I don't want to spend my money and then wish that I had waited for somebody to say, don't go here. But I did that one time with Michelle. I went to this restaurant, it's in Conway. It's a brand new restaurant. They were like, this is going to be fantastic. And so we went in, and all I wanted was a hamburger, okay? I think it was like a seafood/steak joint, and I should have known better than to get a hamburger and a seafood/steak joint, but I went ahead and did it anyway. And when they brought out my food, I had 2 bottom buns, okay? And that was kind of freaking me out a little bit because I was like, okay, I kept saying, where's the top bun at? You know, and I look over at Michelle's plate, she got a hamburger too, and she had 2 top buns. So I was like, okay, no big deal. I'm gonna look past this. It's not a big deal. The cook just got confused with top and bottom, you know, no big deal. So she traded me her top bun. I gave her my bottom bun. Everything was good. I took a bite of the burger. It was terrible. I mean, terrible. I've had better burgers from Walmart, you know, the little frozen section, heat up in the microwave. It was really bad burger. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna make the most of this. I'm just gonna take my fry. I put a fry in my mouth, and I looked on my plate, and there's a piece of spaghetti underneath my fries, okay? So I'm thinking, all right, was this plate run through the dishwasher?
I don't trust anybody working.
So I was like, is this spaghetti clean? Did it go through the dishwasher? I mean, what's going on here? So I wait for the waiter or waitress to come over. She comes over and she says, I tell her everything, you know, hey, I had 2 bottom buns and I don't want free food or anything. I just want them to know what's going on. And she said, I'm sorry about that. And she walks off. And well, that irritated me, okay? Because now I'm mad about it because she didn't say, you know, I'm sorry, we're going to make this right. We're going to go get you a new burger, whatever, come back, you know, none of that. So finally, I just was like, let's go, honey. So we walk up to pay. I tell the cashier the same thing. Hey, you know, this happened. She said, I'm sorry, that'd be $13.95. And so I paid my $13.95, but I promise you, I never went back to that place. I didn't talk bad unless somebody said something to me about, hey, what about this place? Don't go there, you know, unless you want to get some weirdness happening. About a month later, they closed, okay? So you obviously know that their customer service was so pitiful that everybody quit going there, basically, okay? So what this is about, when I was at school at DTSOI, this all came about because kids choose to be at DTSOI. They're not zoned to go there. And so I thought, you know, we really have to be 5-star over here, and if we're not, then we won't have customers. I mean, basically, if we don't have kids, none of us have customers, right? So that's how all this kind of came about. It takes 10 good things to erase 1 bad thing, okay? I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, and I have to pray every night for God to forgive me of my sins, because I know I sin also. So I'm not perfect, okay? But I'll tell you this. As an administrator, it was so hard for me to be an administrator because you have to be on 24/7. 24/7, and you have to be in a good mood all the time. Hey, Miss Smith, how are you today? Everything. I mean, you really have to be on all the time. And so when I would be on like that, it's pretty exhausting. And all it takes is 1 slip up, just you can be kind of in a bad mood one day, and all that good's gone. I mean, that's how strenuous that was to be, even with a kid in the school. So it's the same type thing. Who do you think said that? Do you know? Would that surprise you? You can do 99 nice things for someone and one mean thing, and all they remember is the mean thing. Okay? Oops, what'd I do? Oops. Yeah, I can get back. People always remember the bad things you did and always forget the good things you've done. Now, I don't know who said that, but that's a quote all over the internet, and it's a really great quote. 89% of consumers stop doing business with a company after experiencing poor customer service. I'm one of those 89%. If I call twice a year. I call in the summer and during Christmas break every bill that I have, and I get every bill to come down. Not in a mean way. I just say, hey, my Cox bill's like $68 a month. How can you help me with that? Well, we're running a special right now, $10 off for the next year. Is that something you'd like to do? Absolutely. I'd like to do that. I'll tell you another piece, Dish Network. I'm sitting back at home. I've had Dish Network for 40 years. I mean, for a long time, okay? And I see this advertisement on TV that says, if you're a new customer to Dish, you get a free surround sound system. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I call Dish and I'm saying, wait a minute, what about this? And you know what they did? They sent me a free surround sound system. Because I said, I've been a customer with you. I pay my bill every month on time. And some Joe Schmo that is going to sign up may not even be with you for a year. You're going to give him a free surround sound system. And they said, you know what? We're kind of thinking about that wrong, aren't we? And I'm like, yeah, you are. You should be like, hey, if you've been with Dish 10 years, you get a free surround sound system. Not the free. I get why they're doing that. They're trying to get people to sign up. So on this part, you don't have to close your eyes, but I want you to think about something good that happened to you in your life. And I want you to think about how strong of a memory that is. Okay? What about those details of that memory? So when I think about memories, I try to think smell. I try to think what it sounded like. I try to think what I saw. Like I remember this memory that I'm thinking of right now, and I can see the lint floating in the air as the sun's coming through the window. So I'm trying to think about how strong are those feelings in that positive thing that I saw. And now I want you to think about something bad that's happened to you, okay? Or a negative experience. And the strength that you have of those details and how strong those details are, how strong the smells are, how strong the sounds are, all of those things. I want you to think about those two and kind of be comparing them in your head. So it says raise your hand, but I want you to do a thumbs up if your positive memory is much stronger in strength and detail than your negative. And if your negative is a stronger memory, I want you to do this. If your positive is a stronger memory, I want you to do this. Okay? So everybody at the same time so nobody sees it. Here we go. Stronger or positive? Okay, so this is the first time this has ever happened. We've got positives that are outweighing the negatives, but in every training, I've probably done this training 20 times, in every training I've ever done this training in, the negatives outweigh the positives. And that's because there's research behind it. So research says almost everyone remembers negative things more strongly and in more detail than positive things. And there are psychological and physiological reasons for this. The brain handles positive and negative information in different hemispheres of the brain, completely different sides of the brain. Negative emotions generally involve more thinking, and the information is processed more thoroughly than positive ones. Thus, we ruminate, which is just thinking more strongly about something, more about the unpleasant events, and use stronger words to describe them than the happy ones. So I remember when my girls were born, a great memory. I almost passed out. Ha ha, I know, it was funny. The doctor said, it was a she said, can you handle this? And I'm like, hey, I've cleaned fish and deer and all, I can handle this. And I mean, as soon as the babies were born, I was like, I need to sit down. I was weak. I mean, I about passed out right there in the emergency room. But then I also remember when I was 6 years old and my dad lifted me up on his knee and he told me that my mom and he were going to get a divorce. And that seared in my brain. I remember exactly I still can smell the pancakes because he had just made pancakes and I still remember that. I've told him about that and he's like, how do you remember all that? And I said, because it was one of those memories that was a negative memory for me and it just, everything collected like that. So today's goal is we're just going to talk about, there's competition in schools. Do you agree with that? and districts, okay? And this is more geared toward what you do every day, and a lot of this I'll make some relationships to that. But just as parents and kids choose to be in Springdale, all parents and kids can choose not to be in Springdale. They can choose to go to another school district. I'm going to skip over some of this, but this first part I'm going to talk about, and the part that I want you to talk about is branding. So that truck out there, I see brands going all over the place. There's brands going everywhere. There's a brand on that Firestone out there. There's a brand on that truck right there. Every one of us have a brand, whether you want to believe it or not. I have a brand. You have a brand. You have a brand. I bragged on you this morning. Did they tell you? Okay. You have a brand. You have a brand. You have. All of us have brands, and you determine your brand. Okay, and we're going to talk about that more in a minute. All these other things have to do with brand, but really we're not in control of those right now. Schools could be in control of those. Does anybody use Canva.com, by the way?
I have.
Canva.com is awesome if you want to make any kind of literature for your business office or anything. It's so easy, it's free, and it's like Adobe kind of on steroids. I use it all the time for stuff. I'll probably skip over this and skip over this. Actually, I'll just tell you this piece. Your brand is kind of, the reason why DTSOI has so many variations of brand is so that we don't ever lose sight of people noticing that brand. If we were just a traditional school and we didn't have to worry about people noticing our brand, we would have stuck with maybe just that top right one or top left one. But I have this stack at home, and my wife every once in a while will say, and when I come home, it's kind of where I throw everything, and every once in a while, Michelle will say, "Can you address your stack a little bit?" You know what I mean? I know you all have said something like this before to any of your significant others, but I don't even notice the thing until she says something to me about it, and sometimes I'll look at it and I'm like, whoa, that's getting out of hand. You know, I do need to do something like get that down a little bit. But that's the same thing about branding. If DTSOI was a zone school, they wouldn't need all these brands because they wouldn't need to be noticed. Does that make sense? But since they are a school of choice, that's why there's all these different variations on the brand, because one time a parent may not notice that top one, but they will notice this one. It will speak to them. Does that make sense? Okay. All righty. So this is another thing that Don Tyson does. Anything that we give parents is top-notch, enormous attention to detail. Anything we hand them, anything that we provide for them, we try to put tons of energy into it so that when they open that up, it's the best they've ever seen. So that they're not saying, oh, this is just another high school stuff. They're saying, wow, there's something special about this. I'd encourage you to do that in anything that you send out to staff or anything like that, that it's really the best of the best and that you've vetted that through others to make sure that it's the very best quality that you can send out. All right, so here's about probably $1 billion worth of branding right here. Okay, I'm going to test your skills on branding. So I've done a couple of these. I've reduced this. I used to have 10 of these from different companies, and I've reduced it down to one slide so that it wouldn't take as much time. But look at Burger King back in 1954. And look how they've evolved to present. Same thing with Coca-Cola. Evolved to present. And then McDonald's started out as barbecue. Did you all know that? McDonald's barbecue. And then it evolved into hamburgers, and then it evolved into what it is present day. It didn't even have the arches for about, 21 years, it didn't even have the golden arches. So they get branding, and Apple's the same thing. All of these companies understand that branding is key to everything that they do. It speaks to their culture, it speaks to what they do, it speaks to what their organization believes in, and all of that. So Walmart, if you see that Walmart sign, what pops in your head? I'll give you the first one. You'll get where we're going with this. You should be able to see Walmart and automatically think. Walmart wants you to think, when you see their sign, they want you to think what? Save money, live better. They want you to think that. If you think cheap, they've got work to do, right? Or if you think, expensive, they've got work to do, okay? What about this company? You should be able to see that and know what they say all the time.
It runs like a deer.
Nothing runs like a deer. You got it right. That's what they want you to see. Anytime you see a deer with that green logo and yellow logo, they want you to think nothing runs like a deer, okay? Same thing with this. What's that one?
It's not just a driving?
The ultimate driving machine. So BMW, they don't put the ultimate driving machine on the side of all their cars. They put that logo on there, that BMW logo, and they want you to think the ultimate driving machine. What about this one? Everybody should know this one. Finger licking good. I got to tell you a short story about this. I did this presentation at DTSOI and I told all teachers, you have a brand too. DTSOI has a brand, but your little class, so that's a macro piece, and then on a micro version of that, you have a brand also. And this teacher goes, I'm going to do finger looking good for my math class. And she's done it every year. For the last 3 years, she's done it every year. And kids, she starts off the year like, you may not like math, you may love math, but this math class is going to be finger licking good. And that's like become a cultural thing for her. Kids who were scared of math are no longer scared of that. You see what I'm saying? She developed a culture in her classroom. What about this one?
What is that?
Disney. The happiest place on earth. And what about this one? Da 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 da. I'm loving it. You see what I mean? So then all of these companies have spent billions of dollars to get you to say, anytime you see a golden arches, even subliminally for you to say, I'm loving it. Or Disneyland, happiest place on earth. They want you thinking that way to be that. And all of us have a brand. People see me coming, and I promise their inside voice is saying something. Okay? I promise you. And I hope it's what I want them to say. You know what I mean? Like, he's reasonable. He's going to work with you. He's going to solve problems. I hope that's what they're saying. Is that going to be what everybody says? Of course not, because you can't control that. But you can control what your culture you create around yourself. Okay, Springdale Public Schools, what's their brand?
Teach them all.
Teach them all means all. At the time when I did this presentation, it was this logo is dedicated to excellence. And then DTSOI, hopefully when people see that, they see accelerated industry, they see that type of things, college, and that's what I hope that they see with this piece right here. So I ask you about what's your brand? What brand do you create for yourself? Do you create a brand of yes? We can do this. We'll get through this together. You create a brand of no. You create a brand of, there's a lot of different areas on that continuum that you can create. And if you don't create or promote a brand for your school, others will. So I'd say that about you also, or this building. If we don't create a brand for this building, others will create a brand for the building. People repeat what you say and do. That's one of my favorite quotes of all times. Whatever you say to others, they will say, if you tell me, I promise I won't tell you, right? Okay, but they will. They will say something, all right? So people repeat what you say and do. If you treat somebody nicely, somebody will talk about how you treated somebody nicely. If you treat somebody poorly, they'll talk about how you treat somebody poorly. Just as parents and students and staff community, we've talked about this, they can also choose not to be a part of your school just as they choose. And that's any school. That's not just DTSY. That's Westwood. That's SHS. That's anywhere we go. All right. So this is so true. There's a great speaker, what is his last name? Maxwell, that talks about this. Remember, somebody is always reading, watching, talking, listening, or posting, tweeting about your school 24/7. 24/7. I'd say that also about you personally. I had this experience a couple of weeks ago, or it's been about a month ago, where I helped a parent, then the parent did not like the solution. Could I have made a better solution? I don't know. I've been pretty reflective about it. I tried my very best, and they posted some stuff that was very unflattering about me on Facebook personally. You know what I did? I didn't take it personal. I knew that at that moment, I did the very best job that I could do. I was reflective about how to do it differently next time, and then I just moved forward. I certainly did not get in a spat with them on Facebook. That won't prove anything. Okay, everybody on your team hopefully is doing this, same direction, correct? I've had teams that look like this before and had to realign it. Your team can either make or break you. And if your team looks like this, something's usually going to fail. I said this morning, nobody wants to be the red arrow like Kelly, okay? He was laughing about that. And then if you all say, let's go this way, Kelly says, no, let's go this way or this way. You all say, okay, we'll go this way. No, I want to go that way. And I've worked with people like this, okay? I don't care what decision's made, they'll want to do the exact opposite, okay? So hopefully nobody's like that. I didn't go over these this morning, but I'll go over one of them. What's this one right here? These are called rebus puzzles. This was just a brain break. This one's downtown. What's this one?
Banana split.
Banana split. What's that one?
Once in a blue moon.
Once in a blue moon. What's this one? You're under arrest. Yeah. Yeah. And then this one, same thing. Man overboard. And then you know what parking spot that is right there? What number should the parking spot be? I'm going to tell you and you're going to be like, oh, 87. Because if you read the numbers backwards, this is 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91. You see what I mean? So, yeah. I love rebus puzzles. I do them for hours. My wife's like, would you get off the rebus puzzles? And then this one, these are degrees. So what would this one be? 3 degrees below zero. Yeah. So if you can look them up online. They're little fun things to do. The school leaders who embrace design and implement customer-driven systems will be the ones who thrive in the future. So the key word there is we have to forget about that people are zoned to us, and we have to start thinking about people being customers to us. That's really what it's all talking about, and how we serve customers instead of just providing service for zone people. Does that make sense? So, and it's saying if you do that, if you're able to accomplish that in your district, you will thrive. Because people will do this. They will talk about that. And other people will hear that. Just like I heard about Canteen Laredo. That's how all that builds. Okay? So here's a great example of customer service. I hope the sound works. Oh, perfect. I love it. I hope you like Seinfeld too, because I love Seinfeld. I don't know why we have to watch commercials to everything.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have no midsize available at the moment.
I don't understand. I made a reservation. Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservations.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car. So you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation. And that's really the most important part of the reservation, the holding. Anybody can just take them.
Let me speak to my supervisor.
Here we go. The supervisor. You know what she's saying over there?
What?
Hey, Marge, see those two people over there? They think I'm talking to you. So you pretend like you're talking to me. Okay, now you start talking.
Oh, you mean like this? It looks like I'm saying something, but I'm not really saying anything at all.
Okay, now you say something else, and they won't yell at me because they thought I was checking with you.
Okay, I think that's enough. See you later.
I'm sorry, my supervisor says there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, it looked like you were in a real conversation.
I got to hit escape on this computer. So that's one of my favorite clips about really bad customer service. I've had customer service like that before, where not a car rental, but something like that. Let me keep going here.
Got the Nazi suit.
Yeah. All right. So it says, what is a customer in public schools? And what is a stakeholder in public schools? So I'm just going to put here, are they the same thing? A customer is an individual who receives or purchases a product or service. A customer also has or should have the ability to buy, rate this product or service. So when we have a customer, have you ever heard somebody on the other end of the phone say, hey, after this phone there will be a short survey, can you please fill this survey out? That's what they're talking about right there, is when you provide a service, you should be able to have feedback and accountability for what service you're providing. I can tell you right now, I love Amazon and I've spent way too much money on Amazon, but I won't buy anything unless it's 4 stars or more. And I generally don't read the 1 stars because I think that's somebody who just couldn't figure out the product. They're like, I got it out of the box and it wouldn't turn on. You know, they just didn't maybe know how to turn it on. And then the 5 stars are just like people who just always hit 5 stars. So I try to read 2, 3, 4 before I buy anything. Because I figure those are just the people who really took the time to really think about, is it a 2 or a 3? You know, really thought about it a lot. And I may be wrong on that. It says in education, parents, students, businesses, local taxpayers, bus drivers, teachers, principals, and other school staff are all customers, okay? A stakeholder is any individual or group or organization who is affected by the outcome of the product or service and possibly involved in doing the work. In education, a stakeholder can be anyone from the local business to private donor, taxpayer, or government organization. Remember, anyone who decides they're a stakeholder is one, okay? This is the part that I remind myself every day of, and that'll go away in a minute. I have to constantly remind myself of that statement right there. The customer should not be an interruption of our work, but rather the purpose of our work. So a lot of times, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm super busy and I got a to-do list 10,000 miles long, okay? And I come to school and I say, I'm going to get this, this, and this done, and then the phone rings. And it's somebody that needs help with something, or a mad parent, or a mad student, or whatever it may be, or a teacher for that matter. And then sometimes I have to say, I want to do this, but I really got to do this right now, because that's the purpose. That's the reason I'm here. It's not this to-do list that I'm here for. It's that customer that I'm here for. And that, I promise you, 2 to 5 times a week, I have to remind myself of that. It's not an interruption of my work. It's the purpose of my work that I'm doing this for. I keep trying to grab my phone and make my mouse, so I'm going to move it further away. It's not working very good. All right, what are the 6 basic needs of a customer? When this came up the first time, I said, who can guess the first one? And Marcia goes, friendliness. And I go, wow, that's awesome. That's the first one, but I didn't realize it popped up there. So friendliness. Friendliness is the most basic one. Everybody expects to be treated with integrity, respect, and warmth. Really, that's really what it is. And I think all of us do that. The second one is understanding and empathy. I'm going to kind of breeze through some of these. You know, it's hard sometimes for me to stop and just try to put myself in somebody's shoes and walk a mile in their shoes, but I try to do that often because it gives me more understanding where they're coming from. Fairness. We all want to, remember the Dish Network story I told you? When as soon as I saw that advertisement, I didn't feel like that was fair at all. As a matter of fact, I was pretty mad about it. That fairness piece is a really big one. If there's a way to make sure that customers feel like they're being treated fairly, that's the most ideal situation. And then control. So customers want control. They want, I'll tell you, when I was an administrator in a building, I would always ask, and this is something that you could do also, as a solution, I would say, well, here's what I'm thinking about, 4 days suspended or 5 days ISS, whatever it was. But then I would always say, what do you think? And the parents would, sometimes they would say, well, I don't think they should be suspended at all. And I said, well, now, we're at 4 and not at all. Let's meet in the middle somewhere. So it's just about that reasonableness. Todd Lofton really taught me this too. That word reasonableness goes a long ways. If you're able to be reasonable with people, it goes a long ways. Options and alternatives, the same thing. People want to know, like sometimes I'll call on the summer or on the Christmas break when I call my phone service, I'll say, okay, if I do this, this, and this, what's it going to cost me per month? And she's like, do you want to do that? And I'm like, hang on, don't change anything. I just want to know if I do that, that, and that, what will happen? And she's like, well, it'll be this much. Can I make those changes? And I'm like, no, I'm just wanting information right now. I just want to know what my options are. So, and then the last piece is information. And really the most important part of that piece is that you provide people with correct information. We're all going to make mistakes. I've done that in the past where I've made a mistake and I always follow up and correct that mistake. If I tell somebody something that's wrong, I always follow up and say, hey, listen, I told you something yesterday. It's incorrect, because the maddest I've seen people get is when they're treated unfairly, when they feel like they've been, that first one, when they feel like they've been treated unfairly, or when they've been given incorrect information, okay? Because I remember one time I called my cell phone company when I add my dad and mom onto my plan because it was just cheaper for them. And I said, how much is it going to increase my plan? And he's like, it's going to increase your plan like $30. And I'm like, that doesn't seem right. $30, that's cheap. And he's like, yep, $30. And I said, are you sure? Can you put that in writing to me on my email? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll put that into writing to you. So you want to do this? And I'm like, sure. We did all the stuff, got off the phone, realized I hadn't given him what? My email. And can you find that same customer service person? No. So I thought, oh, it's not a big deal, Get the bill. $80. You know what I mean? It's like, where did the $30 come from? Did he just pull that out of the air, or where did that come from? So yeah, I was pretty upset that I hadn't been treated fairly and I got incorrect information. All right. So what is customer service? Customer service is the act of serving those who receive purchases or product or service. So I added this slide because this is one that I've noticed as I'm calling in the district that's really something needs to be addressed. Who's called Lisa Sims before? Does anybody know Lisa Sims? I gave her a 5-star customer service award this year because she is amazing on the phone. She'll say, I think she's at Helen Tyson Middle School. She'll say, Helen Tyson Middle School, this is Lisa Sims. I'm the registrar. I think she's registered there. How may I assist you? Wow. I mean, I was smiling by the time she got done, you know. But the part I want you to see is answer the phone as quickly as you can. Most people hang up after 3 rings, and they amp up after 3 rings, okay? And then the other part is, hello, when answering the phone, welcome callers courteously and identify yourself in the organization. I use Susan for this, and I was bragging on Susan. So, for instance, instead of just picking up the phone and saying business office, you should say, good morning, or good afternoon, or good morning or good afternoon. There's no other thing, right? This is Springdale Public Schools Business Office. Susan speaking. How may I help you? Don't just say business office or whatever it needs to be. I don't want it to be good morning, Springdale Public Schools. This is Susan. How may I help you? I don't want it to be so scripted that it's not you, right? I'll give you an example. When I went to DTSY, I noticed that everybody was just saying DTSY. And so these parents started complaining. I'd get a lot of complaints about, hey, that's kind of rude. You know, I mean, how about good morning or may I help you? So I gave them some things that they might want to say, and they created their own thing that was tons better than what I gave them. I mean, it was like tons better. The other piece is control your language. The buzzwords of okay and no problem, for instance, might be better clear with certainly and very well. Chick-fil-A has one buzzword. They never say okay or good, that's good. They never say no problem. What do they say? Chick-fil-A, it's a buzzword at Chick-fil-A. Every time they give you something and you say thank you, they say my pleasure. Every single time. They're trained to do that. Every single time. I went through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A one time and I was mad about something. I don't even remember what it was. And I was like, I want a chicken sandwich and fries and a drink. And then the lady goes, that'll be $14.95. And I said, thank you. And she goes, my pleasure. And I drove up to the counter and I was like this. I was like, I had my money out like this and my head down. And she's kind of looking at me and I said, I need to apologize to you. And she said, why? And I said, I was in a really bad mood. I was kind of barking at you. And you said my pleasure and you just made my day. And she said, well, thank you. And then it made my day. It was kind of like this thing going back and forth. And she was like, oh, that was so good. I'm like, oh, no. I mean, like, we almost hugged. Okay, it was so awesome moment. But it was a really good thing. And there's other filler words like and all those things that I try to, like Kelly told me one time I was down there meeting with him and I'm glad that he's honest, like he's brutally honest with people. And he told me, he told me this, I told him this morning, but I said, Kelly, can I be honest with you? And after like the 4th time that I said that, he said, can I stop you just for a minute? And I said, sure. And he said, never say that to me again. I'm just assuming you're going to be honest with me. Are all the other times you're talking, you're not honest with me? So then I'm tried to take that out of my vocabulary so I don't say that anymore. So Kelly actually made me better just by being honest with me and saying that. Now you have 2 choices when people say that to you. You can what? Get mad, right? Or you can say, you know what? That's a good point. I'm going to take that out of my vocabulary. Train your voice vocabulary to be positive. Even that's the hardest part, in my opinion, about being a teacher is you can't have a down day. Even when you're down, you have to pick up the phone, and I'm going to be kind of silly, but like, hello, how may I help you today? Even though your car just broke down and your tire fell off or whatever, and you can't be like, hello, my tire fell off, and how can I help you? That type of thing. So. That was the hardest part of me being a band director is, I'd get 300 kids in front of me and I'd have to be like, Mr. Positivity all the time. And I had bad stuff happen to me in my life too. You know what I mean? It was very difficult. It doesn't hurt to rehearse. If you don't hear anything else today, hear that. Like if you're calling a teacher, do you need some kind of paperwork back or stuff? It's never a bad thing to go, okay, they're going to answer the phone and I'm going to say this and they're going to say possibly this and I'm going to say, oh, no worries, blah, blah, and then call. It always goes better for me when I rehearse a parent phone call or any kind of phone call before I call. And it's just like you're talking 20 seconds of rehearsing. Know who to connect. Okay, so I've had this call in the district where they say, I'll say, is so-and-so there, the principal, for example? And they'll say, no, let me transfer you to her office. And they transfer me to the office, and what do I get? I get the voicemail. Why'd you even transfer me to the office if you knew she wasn't there? You know what I mean? Like, don't transfer me somewhere that it's going to be a dead end. So then what the research says is to never say, let me transfer you to so-and-so. It's always, let me connect you with D. Hobbs. Let me connect you with her, and she can help you with this. And what I usually do is I call D-Hobbs first and say, you're going to have a phone call from so-and-so, and she's on the other line. I'm about to transfer it. Are you okay? And she's like, yes. Boom. Then she's got that connection there. Does that make sense? So when I read that a few years back, I didn't put that in my original training, but then when I started saying, let me connect you with, sounds much better, let me transfer you to. You see what I'm saying? It's just those little tiny things. Putting a caller on hold, a minute is beyond too far. Like if you put anybody on hold for over a minute, it's too much to be on hold, okay? And then ending the call is just as important. Remember this, people remember the beginnings and the endings, okay? In a movie, think of a movie. You remember the beginning and the ending, but you don't remember too much in the middle. So what happens is what you have to say is, hello, my name is Damon Donnnell, Springdale Public Schools, how may I serve you? And then they tell all the details, you kind of work everything out, and then at the end you say, hey, it's been my pleasure today serving you. Is there anything else I can help you with today? And they remember those two things, and that's what they talk about the most. And then the email is important also. I'm trying to speed up just a little bit to get through all of this. 5 secrets. I'm just going to go through all 5 of them real fast. Okay, so the first secret, I think you all know this, Dr. Rollins says this all the time, is relationships, relationships, relationships. I always try to find something I have in common with somebody to talk to them about so that I can build a relationship with them. Instead of me just getting information from you and you providing information to me, that's just information exchange. The relationship piece is where we're talking about something we have in common. Talk and laugh, I really truly believe this, that if you're able to laugh with somebody, you're able to connect, and if you're able to connect, then you build a relationship. And then the art of listening. Most people listen to other people with the intent to respond instead of the intent and then the intent to understand. I'm going to say that again. Most people listen to other people with the intent to respond than they do with the intent to understand what they're going through. So I am an impatient person. I know that about myself. And so what I have to do is shut my mind down when somebody's talking to me so that I even get what they're saying to me. Because a lot of times, there's nothing more frustrating to me than I'll say something to a customer service rep on the phone and they have not heard anything because they're already wanting to tell me what they want to say. They actually didn't hear anything I told them. So that's a really big one right there. Empower your staff to deliver great customer service. So Vanessa brought something up in here today that she said, we never get trainings like this. This is the first time, I mean, she was thrilled with it. She said, this is the first time we've ever got training. I'd like to have more of things like this where we can talk about how we provide great customer service or whatever we want to talk about. I think that's a great thing. I think we ought to establish a PLC here where all the office staff gets to have a PLC, whether it's once a month or once in 9 weeks or whatever you want to do. We don't want to overdo it because what if you overdo it? Then it becomes annoying, right? Oh, I got to go to the PLC. I got to go to the PLC instead of I get to go to the PLC. So that's one thing I'd really like to do. And never dismiss a complaint. Sometimes we are all guilty of this. I've laughed at complaints that I've gotten before, but as I've been driving home, I've been like, ooh, there's some truth in that. We do need to address that. Do you know what I mean? But there's been times where I've said, that's a silly complaint. But then as I think through it, even if there's 0.11111% true in it, there's probably 20 or 30 other people that feel the same way. They've just not said anything. This person just got so mad that they said something. Does that make sense? All right, and then I believe this, truly, 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 that we need to have more of a culture of yes and a culture of can than a culture of can't. So there's a lot of times when I was assistant principal in the building, especially in my beginning years, that I said no to a lot of things that I should have said yes to. And I said no because I made it about me instead of about we. How's this going to impact me? You see what I'm saying? Instead of how can this help we? And so a lot of times I thought there's only one way to do this. 6 + 3 = 9. That's the only way that I know to do it. And then somebody taught me, well, you can get to 9, 5 + 4, and 9 + 0, and 7 + 2, and all those different ways. And it really opened my mind up about scheduling or whatever else it would be. But even systems, like Kelly the other day was talking about having teachers be able to sign their contracts electronically. Instead of, no, we've always sent them out by the mail, and we're always going to send them out by the mail. You see what I mean? Of like different thinking about stuff like that. And different isn't Different necessarily isn't just great for different sake. It's different is only great if it creates better environment for we instead of just what's best for me. You know what I mean? Okay, so here's the art of listening. One of the most sincere forms of respect is actually listening to what another has to say. The one I really want you to focus on in this is the third one, tip. So I have to, all the time, I had a parent that was hollering at me on the phone yesterday, and I had to say, don't take it personal. I had, in my inside voice, I had to keep saying, don't take it personal. This had nothing to do with you. Damon, don't take it personal. Just listen. And a lot of times what all people want you to do is what? Listen. That's really what they want you to do, is they want you to listen to them. Face a speaker, you know all these things. All the rest of these are kind of just duh things. Be attentive, relaxed. I told them this morning that, don't be tense like Kelly when he's listening to you like this. But he really doesn't do that. I was giving him a hard time. I love it. Don't interrupt. Don't pose your solutions. Wait for the speaker to pause before you ask questions. One of my pet peeves is people over talking me, and I know it's my thing. Like, that may not bother you, but it's my thing when, like, I'll say something to my girls and they'll start talking before I even finish, and I'll just stand there like this. I've learned to be patient. I'll stand there like this, and they'll go, "Why are you standing there like that?" And I'll go, "I wasn't finished. Would you like to hear the rest?" And sometimes they'll say yes, and sometimes they won't. And I'm okay with that, because the information that I was going to give them might have benefited them. And so now they'll always say yes. They're like, oh, because one time their mom said they couldn't go, and she said, go ask your dad, and if he says yes, blah, blah, blah. So they started in on me, and I couldn't even get a word in edgewise, and I was going to let them go, but they were over talking me. So I was just like, well, obviously what I have to say is not very important. So, and then a week later, like, you didn't even let us go. And I'm like, I was going to let you go, but you didn't let me finish. So now they're like, they'll ask me a question, they're like on the edge of their seat, you know what I mean, about the answer, which is kind of funny. All the rest of these are just kind of common sense. All right, so here's some tricks that have been super successful for me over the years. Make sure I'm not pulling them out. So when people come in downstairs, I've always thought about, there's that little waiting area down there, and how do we make sure that they're super comfortable? And I told Kelly this, I'm not advocating that we give a bottle of water to everybody, but I went and did this training at Central Junior High School. At the beginning of the year, Todd asked me to come over and give the training, and they bought a little mini fridge, and they just keep it stocked with water. And she said, you would not believe, the secretary said, the difference in the mad parents that come in, we offer a water, and how their escalation goes from here to here in like 2 seconds. You would not believe, they keep little snacks up there, like the little Cheez-It crackers and just some little knickknacks. And I said, is this costing you all a lot? And they're like, no, I think we spent $50 on it all year long. And she said just the amount of difference it makes when somebody comes in that's upset, or somebody's just tired. Right? They've worked all day, they're trying to check out their kid, and it's hot outside, they've just walked in the office, and they said, can I get you a coffee or a water? And she said the difference in attitude is just immense. And so I always just say, it doesn't have to be something you have to buy either. It can be a compliment. I really like your shirt. Whatever that is, back to relationship, back to that conversation piece, that whole thing. Always look for opportunities to do the unexpected. That kind of goes along with bottled water, because people don't expect that anymore. Cindy Lyons, that works at DTSOY, she said that she gets a haircut at this place like clockwork, okay? And she said, I couldn't get in, so I went to this other place, and as soon as I walked in the door, they offered me a water. She said, I'll never go back to that other place. So that ought to show you some of the power with just that grace that's given to you. And so that's a big deal. I try to always look for ways to do the unexpected, whether it's a lesson that I give, or a gift that I give, or a compliment. I always look for ways to do the unexpected. I was talking this morning that I sent somebody a text, one of the social workers, that they were doing such great work at a school. And she said, that's actually what I needed to continue moving forward. She said, I've wondered if I was even needing to do this anymore. And now, so don't underestimate the power of your words, because your words can be way more powerful than a bottle of water. But a bottle of water can also be one of those pieces also. Be a plus person. If you don't read John Maxwell, I encourage you to do that. He's amazing. He's not just about educational leaders. He's just in leadership at all and just being a good person. And he has so many good things. You can type on Google "Minute with John Maxwell" and he'll send you a video every morning. It's an inspirational video. And it's just about leadership and how you lead and things. And it's really good. And you can always discontinue it if you don't like it, but he's really good. He talks about our duty in life is to add value to other people's lives. So it's not about me, it's about we and what I can do for each one of you. And it's really a fancy way of just saying servant leadership, okay? And then inviting the power of thank you. I try to tell this all the time to band directors, counselors, social workers, anybody else that I help coordinate. I try to say this all the time. Never underestimate the power of thank you. Even if it's an email thank you, even if it's whatever it is, thank you is king. It's really big. Cards, emails. I'll tell you this, at DTSOY, instead of writing this email to this parent one time, I was just she wrote me this really bad email that had all kinds of cuss words and stuff in it. I mean, it was really bad. And I thought, no matter what I write back, it's not going to get through. So I videoed myself with, what is that called? It's a little app that I videoed my response to her and sent her a video response. And to this day, Amy Flanagan says that she still comes in and goes, "Can you believe you wrote me, did a video for me? That was so awesome. It really made me feel so welcome into the school and everything." But just those unexpected things that you can do are really good. Let's see, with their letters, personal visits, birthday cards. I mean, we all know that's all relationship stuff. Walmart has a sundown rule that they answer all their associates know, their managers and all that know that they're to answer an email before the sun goes down. Okay? So their expectation is that your inbox, you're okay to have emails in their inbox, but none of them should be unanswered. Okay? And then show grace. So I always try to, if somebody is having a bad day or anything, I always try to be forgiving because I want to be forgiven. Exactly. Does that make sense? Because I'm going to have a bad day too. So I always try to show everybody else grace so that they'll show me grace when that comes back around. That includes parents, that includes each other, that includes all of that stuff. And then students, parents, and community in your building. This one really doesn't apply as much here, but in a lot of schools, there's this kind of thing where do we want parents in our building? Do we not want parents in our building? You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things to where we should always want parents in our building as much as we can get them in our building to be a partner with us in their child's education. So this one is, I want this one to sear in your memory, okay? Because this one is really the crux of this whole presentation. The customer's perception of you is your reality, okay? So the customer's perception is your reality. You can think you're great and roses and all that all day long, but if all the people who interact with you don't think that, that's your reality, okay? And I have to remind myself of that too. So I'm going to go through these just kind of quick. 5 stars is more than a mindset. It's about adhering to certain standards. I think we all know that. And if you don't have 5-star establishment, you can still be a 5-star customer service and admit it when you're wrong and fix it. The maddest I've been is when people don't admit something. They say, "Well, that was your fault." No, that was really your fault. You know what I mean? Come on now. Let's admit and the power of apology. There's a great story about JCPenney. If you'll just type the power of apology JCPenney, it's a great story about how JCPenney messed up with some marketing stuff once, and then they apologized to all their customers and then reverted back to what the customers wanted instead of what they wanted. Does that make sense? And then go the extra mile. I remember one time when our power was off at DTSOY and I had given this spill at DTSOY, Amy Flanagan said, "Hey, our power's off, our computers won't even come on, but you need a transcript." She got in her car, she drove down to Lakeside, got the transcript, came back and gave it to the parent, and the parent to this day still talks about that also. So that's that extra mile piece. Don't make your problem their problem. Does that make sense? And then this little last piece here is, I got to show you this. This piece is something I showed our staff at DTSOY, and I said, "Hey, I want all of you all to know." Walmart does this a lot. I don't know if you've seen these in Walmarts, but they have them in some of the Walmart stores. You don't have to speak any language to put a happy face. Like those are little buttons that you push. So if you were happy with your service, you push the happy face. If you're not happy with your service, you put the frowny face. So I said, "I'm going to buy one of these, and we're going to put it in the front office." And the whole staff was like, "Woo! Woo!" and while they were clapping, I said, and I'm going to put one in each one of your classrooms. And they were like, the clapping stopped like that. And they said, say what, Willis? I said, yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. Let's put one in each classroom, and then you'll know if your kids are engaged in your assignments and if they're happy with how they're being treated and all that. And they're like, well, hang on a minute. I said, well, no, you hang on a minute. You were super happy when we were going to put one in the office, but then you weren't happy when we were going to put one in the classroom? And so it started this wonderful conversation about how we're serving kids as customers and how we're making sure that they have a voice and how they're being served. Does that make sense? So now, did I put one in each classroom? No, I didn't have to, because we had this great conversation and developed all these other plans that allowed kids to have voice and how they were and how their education was being presented to them. Okay, and then two more little pieces here. There's also this piece. I love this one too. This one's being used in restaurants right now. It's an app called Phoner, and I can go to that app and I can type in any number I want, and for like $5 for a month, I can own that phone number that actually goes to my phone. So it's a different phone number that I can call from too, and I can receive text from. So what a lot of managers of restaurants are doing, they're putting these on their tables, and so they get real-time feedback about their service and their food right there on the phone. It goes right to the manager's phone. The nice thing about it is he can go on his phone on that app and turn it off. So if he's not working that day, it won't go to his phone anymore. You can make it go to multiple phones at the same time. So if there are 5 managers, 5 people can get that. Does that make sense? So we tried to do one of these at DTSOY to where when parents came in, a big sign said, text this number about our customer service. But what we wound up landing on was a Google form that when people came in, they got to talk about how their service was. And I encourage you all, Dr. Rollins brings up the word spark all the time. I encourage you to talk about that. Is that something that you want to do, is to have feedback on what your customer service is? That's something that you need to make a decision as a group on, though. And then this last piece is this. I won't show you the whole video because we don't have time, but I do want you to know this. When I was making this video or this presentation, I've probably given this all over the state probably 20 times. When I was making this video, I realized that this video will never be done, or this presentation will never be done, because there's always some part of customer service that will evolve and become better and better and better. But this tugs at my heartstring, and there's tons of Chick-fil-A service trainings that are online, and this is the one that really made me think. So I'm going to show you just a portion of it. This is part of their regular training to this day. It's making me hungry, though. That's all right. You know what would have been perfect if I'd had Chick-fil-A. So you kind of get the picture there about what that is. So everybody who walks in, that girl gets me every time. I want to cry almost every time I see that piece. But every person that walks into that bottom part of the office, or the first floor or the third floor, has a story, including us, okay? Including what we do. Let me hit escape. So that makes me think, when I saw this video, my whole perception of how parents came in and I served parents changed on that day, because they didn't come in and say, I can't wait to get on to Damon Donnnell, right? I'm not even part of their concern. They came in just wanting to be heard. and with all the other stuff that they came in with. So this last piece here, right here, is about servant leadership and about how we all should be servant leaders. And it talks about, this is John Maxwell again, I'm just going to read this to you because it's such a powerful read. The success of your school or administration building will be based on your service, your ability to serve others, to put them first. How do I know that I'm a servant leader? Well, it's when you don't mind serving other people. What I've discovered is that when you value people, service becomes a premium, because you know the greatest way to value people is to put them first. Great leaders always put their people's agendas before theirs. They always put people's concerns before theirs. That's service. Service with quality, service with integrity, service that will truly show a person that you like them more than anything, you value them more than anything. So the next time you really want to make a difference in your school or admin building, ask yourself, how high on your school list is service? Are you truly serving others? That's the key, and you will only do that if you truly value it. So when I read, and he's got a whole piece on this about servant leadership, when I read through that, it really speaks to my heart about, yes, we have a lot going on in our lives, and yes, we have a big to-do list, and all that stuff is great. But without all that grace and the relationship and doing the unexpected and going the extra mile and really serving people, none of that really matters. So that's all I have for you today. I'm going to say this again. I don't have all the answers. And this all came from a newspaper article, to be honest with you. I saw a 5-star food service. And I was like, well, why don't we have that for school? And why don't we talk about this more, that we do have customers just like anybody else has? And why aren't we doing some of those things? So again, I don't have all the answers. I'm not the expert. I've just learned things over the years from great people that are great customer service people, and I've tried to adapt that into me and try to pull in all those great things that I see others doing and try to make it a part of me, and that's what makes an individual. I mean, like all of us do that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll just move forward from there. Thank you. I tried to keep it shorter. The last one went a little long.
Well, they might have talked.
That's right. That's exactly right. They were chatty.
That's really
Yeah.
good.
I appreciate it. And hopefully, are you all interested in doing like every 9 weeks having a meeting and doing some topic that you'd like to know more about? Sure. Whether it's safety or whether it's servant leadership or whatever, you all want to do something like that? I think it would be kind of neat to do that and bring people in.
I think safety in this age that we're in.
I agree.
Be good.
You said something that reminded me of church.
Right.
And we have greeters, and my husband and I are one of the greeters, and so we had this training. And one of the things is, people when they come in, if they're a first time to come to your church, they make their decision whether they're coming back within 2 or 3 minutes.
Exactly right.
And so we have to assess, and you can tell by the way they look. Do they look like they're looking around like they don't know?
Right.
That's our cue.
Right.
To say hello. I don't believe we've met, because you don't know if you've missed them or what.
Right.
And then you tell them, welcome to Crosspoint, my church.
Right.
And then we have bagels and donuts and everything, and
right.
you offer that. We have a welcome desk.
That's awesome.
And so you take them over there so we can especially if they have children, we'll make sure they get to the right place. But that reminded me of that, because if we are talking with our friends who are also greeters,
right,
and we don't see them, and then the next person doesn't see them,
right,
it's more than likely they won't be back.
Correct. And you know what I love what you said about that is within the first, you said I think 15 to 20 seconds or a minute.
Not very long.
Yeah, really that's with all of us. Like people that come in downstairs, and I know that you work that desk also, that people that interact with you within the first 10 seconds, they're going to either have a great impression or they're going to have a poor impression. One of those two things is going to happen. And really, you're in control of that, so that's a big deal. Like this dad came in, and he was mad yesterday. And he said some things right off the bat that were really bad. And I just said, my name's Damon Donnnell. And he kind of stopped for a minute, and he goes, yeah, my name's whatever it was. And it just completely changed the whole conversation, because I was like, wow, what was all that about, But I will tell you.
That must have been the parent I sent upstairs.
Yeah, I think it was, absolutely. And I will tell you this. I truly believe if you connect with somebody, anything's possible. If you make that connection with somebody. And you really, people can see through fake care. Right. Easy. But if you really say, and you mean it, that I care about you and I want to help you and we're going to solve this together, people relate to that, and I don't know, there's probably 1% of the population that would say, I don't care, I don't want your help. But most people, reasonable people, will say thank you, and you'll build a relationship from that. So anyway, have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Great.